Hey, welcome back to the From the Garoffice Podcast with Micah Foster. Today, I'm speaking with Joshua Verwers, a pastor and also a YouTuber. He holds a live streaming show with another pastor called Vlog Pastors, and they broadcast for the masses to hear, and they discuss all kinds of things. So we're going to talk about what that is, why he does it, and the impact it has on his ministry. Enjoy. Well, hey, Joshua, thanks for being on the podcast today. Really appreciate you. First of all, man, just tell us a little bit about the context of your life, your ministry, where you at, what you doing.
So my name is Joshua Verwers. I am a lead pastor here in South Central Iowa. I live in Osceola. The church is over in Sheraton, about 25 miles away. I am married, 4 children, ages 10 to 17. And I've been in ministry, I think, since 2007. So that puts us going on almost 14 years at this point, because I believe it was February of like 2007, if I remember right. So yeah,
coming up on the anniversary.
Yeah. So it's been a minute. I've been lead pastor since 2014, so about 7 years doing that, and I've been running, digital ministry, online stuff. Since I think it was May of 2018 that I really kind of just jumped in the realm of YouTube and trying to put out, online video. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Very cool. So you got on the bandwagon pretty early with digital ministry. Tell me, when Twitter came out, were you like one of the first people to jump on?
I don't even remember when I got on Twitter. But I have been on for a while, and I went through seasons with Twitter where I loved it and then I hated it. Mm-hmm. And usually when I hated it, I would just like almost suspend my account, just keep the name there and block out tons of content. And I know I had a Twitter profile years ago that I lost access to.
Nice.
About, 3 years ago, really just decided I needed to start doing a whole lot more online.
Okay. So 3 years ago, you got kind of serious about digital.
Yep.
Cool. And now you've evolved. Like we met through a Vlog Your Ministry cohort, which has then become Value with Video, which is now sort of Patreon community. It's kind of evolved this whole community of people who are trying to do some online video stuff for ministry. So we met through that. We both went through kind of the course with Trey Van Camp. We both started doing, I did Veda, Video Every Day, in April a couple years ago. And that kicked my butt, first of all. And then you've continued to do these spurts of like vlogging every day, like around Vlogmas and these sorts of things, which lots of YouTubers do, but it's I don't know, pastors have a different bent on it than just the typical YouTuber. So tell me about that. How is the everyday vlogging situation? I know you go in sprints, so you don't go like the whole year. Tell me about that.
No, I don't do the whole year because it's a lot of work, especially when you're putting out content kind of like what you and I do, where we really take care of the edit and we're thinking about the visual aspect of it. And so there's a lot of details in there. And when you're trying to, record, edit, upload, and then promote a new video every single day, it's like, okay, you got 24-hour turnaround. You got to get in some sleep, and we've got other jobs as well. So it's a lot of work. But when I started it, the first time I did it was actually in December of 2018. So I had only been doing YouTube and vlogging less than 6 months, I think, at that point. And I decided I'm going to do Vlogmas. I'm going to do a vlog every day from December 1st through Christmas, just to push myself creatively and try to sharpen my skills. Because I kind of knew that, from other areas of my life, that really immersing myself into something and, stretching myself, giving myself a big challenge, that's how I grew the fastest. And I knew I needed to. So did that in 2018. and I had started to meet a couple different YouTubers, other Christian pastors and vloggers through that time leading up to it. I had met Trey Van Camp. I had met Jared Brown and Chase Jones all in person. And Jared and I mean, we hit it off right away. And there was just like this kindred spirit connection that we had. And then come the following April of 2019, so Veda, Vlog Every Day in April.
Right.
I asked Jared, I was like, hey, we were just like doing a chat at one point, and I was like, what would be fun is if we tried like a month-long collab, where we both do Veda, but we're asking each other questions. So I'll ask you a question, you ask me a question, and then the following day we're going to answer those questions. And then it just keeps going back and forth for the entire month. And that was kind of the beginning of Vlog Pastors, because we had been talking about that, and this would be a fun idea to try. And when we were discussing it, I was like, it's kind of like the YouTube channel Vlog Brothers, where they go back and forth every other day. But it's, one brother asks a question, or talks about his day, and then the next brother is the next day. And I said, it's essentially the same thing, but we're doing it every day because we're doing it on our own channels. And instead of being Vlog Brothers, it's the Vlog Pastors. And it's just kind of take it off from there. I think we've done, we just wrapped up this last Vlogmas, I believe was season 4, but we had like a mini season in there when we went out to a Vegas growth trip. So it's been kind of back and forth. We've brought some other pastors in. We've tried to have them in little collabs. We've made a lot more work on ourselves in doing a lot of that. But it's a neat way to get different perspectives, especially from a pastor, on just life and ministry, and especially in Christmas, the Christmas season. Because I think a lot of times we as pastors, we have almost this mystique around us that people don't really know what our lives look like and what it is like. And oftentimes it seems like either they're holding us to on a different pedestal, a little bit higher, or we think that they're doing that. And it becomes this little bit of a disconnect. And so with, a daily collab, it's like, you can't put on a front, and you can't, when you're going daily vlogging, you can't put on a facade. You can't be, prim and proper. You can't put your best self forward because you're going to get burnt out, and it's going to get rough, and it's going to get real. And I think the realness is what really conveys, especially with video, in a way that I don't know as we've ever seen from pastoral leadership like we have the ability, with the online medium today.
Right. And so you guys, so tell me from your perspective, right? Who's the primary audience for your vlog pastors?
Yeah. So I would say, looking at like my YouTube community and my analytics, I would say that my primary demographic tends to be about age 25 to 45, male, and primarily Christians. Not necessarily in ministry, but they are, churchgoers. And that seems to be the primary. I think I've got on my channel, it's like an 80-20% leaning towards male versus female. Not to say I don't have a solid audience, and not to say that, a female audience, and not that they don't go above or below. I know teenagers that are watching my stuff, and I know 80-year-olds that are watching my stuff as well. So it's a really broad, kind of broad sweep across there. But if I were to really think and pinpoint, trying to target and imagine what my ideal target audience would be, the person that's going to want to watch it, it's going to be a Christian that is looking for something that is encouraging and uplifting, that is not going to be, negative. It's not going to be anything that is so theologically deep that it challenges them in a way that they can't really enjoy it because they're too busy thinking about it. It's the time where we just provide real life Christianity. And it's like, the tagline I use is living by faith. And that's all I'm doing, is just sharing my faith online. It's like, this is me. This is all of me. This is what I think about things. And if you get a little nugget, great. And at least you're going to get some type of an encouragement through it, I would hope.
Gotcha. And you're wearing it too.
I'm wearing it well on the head, on the shirt.
You're wearing it. So tell me about that. I mean, okay, so you've got merch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Live by Faith merch.
Yep.
And so how do you sell that? How do you distribute that?
So it's mostly just done through my website. That's the primary source right now. So joshuaverwers.com/shop. And you can pick your stuff up. I use a drop shipment. So I've got somebody else to kind of fill it and print it and send it out. Just because, I've got all of these other things to do. And it's not even so much about, making a profit. My profit margins are very low on that. It is an extra source of revenue because when you're doing digital ministry, like I don't think people ever really understand until they get into it what kind of time and monetary expense it can take. Yeah. We wound up doing this at one point. My wife was joking with me and we were trying to figure out how much we had left on our mortgage. And, we're under a year in this and we're going to be debt free on that. And she was looking at it and she's like, if you hadn't bought all of your YouTube stuff, we would have had the mortgage paid off by now. And I'm like, oh, no, we wouldn't. That's an exaggeration. She's like, well, yeah. Well, go back through your Amazon cart, go through your emails and check all your receipts. And in like a year and a half, I had spent over $15,000 on equipment. And all of a sudden I had to
easily
with my wife. Yeah, it was like
easily.
And that was just the stuff that I could account for. Like there's excess of that I hadn't really accounted for. Yeah. And not that it takes that, but my personality and my style, and for those that are, watching this, they can definitely see that there's, an image quality that I do care about. And so I've got the lighting and I've got, the sound, I've got everything. And it's all these little details that I'm constantly trying to improve. And part of that is just my personality. Part of it is, even again, my faith that I believe that we're supposed to grow, as Christians. It's not supposed to just kind of be a stagnant. I mean, we should constantly be trying to grow and become more like Christ. And so because I've always got that growth mindset in there, it just conveys in every area. So, I'm never really settled with how anything looks. I'm like, I need to go this, that, and everything.
Well, before we started recording, I just said, man, I'm jealous of your mic and your image is so crisp and all that stuff. It's so, it definitely, the temptations are there to continue for me to be making purchases. Now you mentioned,
I was just going to say there's a balance that comes with that as well. I mean,
I know, right?
It's kind of analyzing and saying, okay, what do I want? What do I need? And what would actually help? And so oftentimes what I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of, the audience, and is there something that I could purchase or get right now that would really help? I haven't made any significant purchases, I think in probably the last 6 months, which is very long for me. It's usually every month or two. I mean, there's been little things, some memory cards here and there, but no significant purchases that I've bought. And a lot of that is because I've gotten to the place where the quality is more than an acceptable level. I mean, it's what I would consider a high quality level that I'm putting out. And so I haven't found anything that I really want or need that is going to benefit the audience in a huge way yet. When that happens, well, then, I'm going to be dropping some more cash.
There's always going to be a breakthrough. I think there's a NAMM is happening right now or something. So there's going to be some big announcement that you want something.
Hold on. I have to clarify that. I said no major purchases in the last 6 months, and that is not the truth. I bought a drone in December. So I guess that was a pretty significant purchase. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Which one did you get, by the way?
I got the Mini 2.
That's what I got. And I got it in November, beginning of November. And then, my idea was okay, I wanted the new GoPro and the Mini 2. And I had a old GoPro 8 and I had a Spark DJI drone. So I wanted to upgrade those two pieces of equipment. but I didn't want to just keep the old ones. So I went ahead and bought the new ones, and then I posted bought the new ones, posted the old ones online for sale, to help recoup that.
Yeah.
And it took like 2 months to sell those because I got a bunch of low ballers, and finally, I kind of met people where they wanted and all that stuff. So anyways, you mentioned a little bit ago how much this takes and how busy you are. And then you mentioned, other jobs.
Yes.
With an S. And so talk about that. Like, I think we're similar in that. I think we have a lot of things going on. Okay. So tell me, what are the jobs that you got going on?
Yeah. So the primary one that I've got is obviously being a pastor. I mean, it's funny because I'll have people, especially in ministry, ask, "Are you a full-time pastor?" And to me, when you ask somebody if they're a full-time pastor, you're either one, just using the wrong terms because you don't know better, or two, you have no idea what it takes to be a pastor, because there's no such thing as a part-time pastor. I mean, it's not like we get to punch in and punch out. I mean, you're kind of on call, even if you've got office hours, even if, I'm in a smaller church and they kind of, respect boundaries and time. At the same time, they know if they need me at any point in time, it doesn't matter. Call. You can call, you can text, you can stop by, whatever, and I'm there. And so you can't say, that it fits in a time constraint because it's a small church. I do not make a full-time income from that church. And I think sometimes that's what people are trying to say, are you you get a full salary? Well, no. And so I'm not even necessarily bivocational. In addition to that, I do drive school bus for our local school. It's something I've done off and on throughout the years. Up until COVID hit, I was also working with a marriage ministry as a seminar speaker, and then kind of COVID hit and put some stop on there. And so it was like separating away from them. And then this stuff went from just like digital ministry, and me thinking this is kind of going to be a hobby. It's actually starting to produce some revenue and some income streams. But in order for that to happen, there's a lot more work. And so I'm acting, even though I consider this a digital ministry, I'm acting more like an internet marketer or a social media influencer in trying to do, several different things, several different revenue streams as far as that goes.
So talk about those, because you basically you have a physical church that you are a pastor to. Then you're a Christian content creator / pastor.
Correct.
For digital ministry. So tell me, how are you trying to fund that second part? I just realized I have my church logo over the top of your side of the screen, which is hilarious to me.
That's all right. It doesn't bother me one bit.
I don't know. I didn't see that till just now, but okay.
That's all right. So one of the ways I think primarily, and this is where different Christians, especially if they're doing stuff online, being content creators, they should start to do more things, is with what the secular world is really calling like crowdfunding options. So that could be like a Patreon, or what I use is Buy Me a Coffee. And those are ways of basically just receiving donations, one-time donations, monthly support, annual support, things like that. For Christians, it's something that we can kind of understand and wrap our heads around if we really think of this as a ministry, because it's something that you look at this digital space, and I often refer to it as a digital world. It's not just the physical world we're in. There's a real online community that is there. And so I believe it to be a digital world. And it's essentially what we're doing is a form of like missionary work. Now, that's not to say it's the same as the people that are going to these foreign countries and they're living there 24/7. Right. It's not to compare. It's not to say one is, better or worse, or that we're doing the same thing they're doing, because that's not even close. And I think every missionary out there would know it's a world of difference if you're like, a US inner city missionary, and if you're a missionary in, like the 1040 window over in Southeast Asia, completely different worlds. And it's a similar thing when you come to online, because there's a different language. There's a different way of presenting things. Like, I can't do a 30-minute sermon and expect to hold people's attention online. It's just not going to work the same. Sometimes I can't hold their attention for 30 seconds.
All right, hold on. I think there's some people who might be listening or watching who need to hear that.
Yeah. Here, the thing is online, we have such a short attention span. We know that offline that people have a short attention span.
Right.
It's really obvious. Like, if you didn't realize we have a short attention span, all you have to do is think about how many things are have it my way.
Mm-hmm.
I want it, and I want it now. I don't want to wait a week for something to show up for me, let alone like these 30-day, AliExpress is going to ship me something from China. No, I ain't waiting. Amazon will give it to me in 24 hours. And it's like, that is our short attention span. And I'm even one of those that sometimes I don't want to wait for Amazon. I would rather drive an hour out of my way and have it in hand in an hour than to wait for Amazon to send it in a day or two. So we
you'd wait for toilet paper when you needed it from Amazon but you would not wait for that piece of tech that you really want.
Yeah, I drive to Best Buy to get my drink.
It's really funny. Yeah. My son, he wants PS5, right? Like, desperately wants PS5. He's got the money. He's been checking the stocks every day. The Target and Best Buy and Walmart and all this stuff, GameStop. Well, this morning he runs into my room and I'm like barely waking up. My eyes are barely opening up. He's 11, so he doesn't have his own way to buy it. He has to buy it through me, basically. And so he comes in, he's like, they're in stock. And he's yelling. And I'm like, calm down. What are you talking about? And he shoves his iPad in my face. Best Buy's got it in stock. I'm like, hold on. So I grab my phone to go through the app, because I've got things set up so I can do it real quick. From the time I grab my phone, they're out, right? So then he's in a bad mood all morning because we don't want to wait for stuff. We don't want to wait. Exactly. Yeah. And the measurement of like watch time on Facebook is like 3 seconds. They're like, oh, 3 seconds? Cool. Somebody watched it. Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that's like something that is when you get into the digital space and we talk about different communication styles in different worlds or parts of the world, there's a different communication style online, so much that there's a different communication style on each platform. I mean, you just talked about how like Facebook has anything over 3 seconds, they consider a view. Even if somebody like dropped their phone and didn't actually see what you had and it took them 3 seconds to pick it up and swipe away, Facebook says that's a view. Right. YouTube, they count 30 seconds as a view. And then you've got platforms like, TikTok and Instagram with, like Reels and stuff that their whole length of the video is they want it to be 15 seconds. Sure, they'll give you up to, 30 or 60, depending on the platform, but they want it to be 15 seconds. And you got like Twitter that says, hey, we're only going to give you 140 characters. And then they realize, okay, maybe we need to extend that. Now we'll give you 280 characters. Just, there's so many different, really, they're language barriers. And so when we're trying to present a gospel message, a biblical message, and from a pastor who, like I said, I was in pastoral ministry and preaching for, what was that? 10 years, 11 years before I ever got online. And up until that time, I had never had a single message go under 45 minutes. And now I'm trying to go online and do something. I mean, I had people at church saying, 45 minutes is kind of long, where I had others that were saying, 45 minutes is kind of short. Yeah. And then you get online and it's like, you put out a video that's 5.5 minutes long and somebody's like, oh, that took way too long. Mm-hmm. And so you start to learn the communication styles. You start to learn how people receive their, that information. And then you have to figure out, okay, now how in this context, in this culture, if you will, am I going to be able to present this message in a way that they'll be able to receive it? And it's a lot of work. And so many people in YouTube doing stuff online, it takes them years to figure that out. And that's primarily because it takes them years to make enough videos before they start to figure that things out, which goes back to like daily vlogging challenges. It forces me to learn so fast. I mean, I press myself in doing that. And because of that, I've picked things up what I believe is fairly quickly. I mean, my audience retention and average watch time is pretty good by any YouTube standards.
Awesome. So who would you say you tend to watch and enjoy?
Oh man, it is a wide variety of content. Really a wide variety. So the YouTubers that I probably watch most, very few Christian YouTubers, let me put it that way.
Very
few Christian YouTubers. And here's my honest opinion. In my humble opinion, maybe not so humble opinion, I think most Christian YouTubers are boring. And that is sad because most Christians are not boring. But the content they're producing, there's a disconnect for me. It doesn't feel like they're necessarily being as real and authentic as they should be. And it just doesn't connect with me in that way. So I don't watch a ton, even really a lot of Christian YouTubers. There are a few that I watch, fellow pastors, like Vlog Your Ministry people that are kind of in here. Like I love watching like Jason Mayfield's vlogs. I don't watch Jason Mayfield's teachings or Bible reviews. It's not really content that I'm seeking out. Same with Trey. Like I love Trey, and any of his vlogs, I'm watching them all. He starts doing teachings, not really for me. Just like, and that's not a knock on those guys to say they're bad teachers at all. I believe they're great Bible teachers. I believe they need to be doing that because there is an audience for that, and there are people that want that. I think they just have to realize, and I realize too, that if I were to watch that stuff, it's not something that I'm really seeking out and looking for. Not to say that I don't listen to different Bible teachings, different sermons, different preachers, but I try to kind of limit the amount that I'm listening to. And that's being a preacher. I don't want too many outside voices that are influencing what it is I believe God's trying to speak to me for our church on a Sunday sermon. And that's one of the reasons that I don't do that stuff. But they're, the entertaining and uplifting, encouraging content, that I believe their vlogs are. Oh yeah, I love watching that stuff. Yours is, the same way. And apart from that, man, when I say a wide variety of content, like I love watching Fail Army, but I watch Fail Army usually with it muted just because there's an excess amount of profanity out there and I don't feel like listening to that. I watch every single thing that Dude Perfect and Mr. Beast put out. I love watching their content.
You have the same taste as my son. He loves Mr. Beast. He loves Dude Perfect.
And I do have kind of this, childlike taste in that. And then there are a couple, UK creators. One is Roomy Official is the channel, and he makes like music content. And I'm not really big into music, but for some reason, he's just entertaining to me. And so I get sucked into every one of his videos. Part of it was also COVID and the pandemic hit, and he was doing daily videos. So I discovered him, and then the other one that I would say I watch most of the videos that is kind of off the wall content would be Jack Massey Welsh is his name. He's got like 8 different YouTube channels, all about Jack sucks at something. And it's like, those are some of the off the wall. And then of course, I love watching the Casey Neistats and the Peter McKinnons, the Gerald Undone for tech review type stuff. I love watching Gene Nagata's vlogs. I love watching his tech over on the Potato Jet channel. Matty Hapoya, these are guys that their content is, it's got like a quality level that rivals just typical YouTube and almost filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And some of them would even say that they make films, especially in the case of like Casey Neistat. And that's one that I like watching a lot of that stuff and a lot of different YouTubers in different genres. For one, just pure entertainment, mindless entertainment where I don't have to think about things and I can just kind of have a stress-free type of enjoyment. And the other part is to look and see what other people are doing and what other ways they're able to capture an audience and convey their message or their story, and then see if there's something they're doing that fits with who God has created me to be and my personality, and how I could use that, if I could use that, to convey the message that he's given me.
I think there's a lot we can learn from a lot of those guys on creating visually appealing things so that people will stick around and listen to what God wants to say through us. And I know what you mean about the boringness of us Christians. And the thing is, like, there's some truth to the word of God should be enough, right?
Yeah.
But presentation matters. Right? Okay. There's a reason. Yeah. There's a reason we try to do things creatively and try to mix it up and try to present it in a creative and different way, because all these things have been said for centuries, yet people still haven't listened. And so we need to continue to try to say it in a way that people can hear it, to use the language of the people. So visual storytelling is a way to do that. So,
I mean, how many times did Jesus do visual storytelling? He would grab the illustrations, the examples, the things that were around him. Hey, look at that mountain. Look at that sea. If you've got that type of faith, what about, this grain of mustard seed? Hey, look at that fig tree. Hey, you're out there on a boat, you're fishing. He used the things that were around him to really kind of help, reinforce those biblical principles and then the message that God had given him to, convey. And because of that, I do believe, yes, we can step it up and think outside of the box a little bit more when it comes to visual storytelling. And really, most of what Jesus did was storytelling. I mean, it's called a parable for a reason.
Right.
So I think we've got the ability to do that. And a lot of that, I think, is just us kind of being maybe observant to people and how they are. And yes, we have a short attention span. And yes, I would say that the word should be enough. And yes, it would be amazing if I could just stand there, not have to move, not have to put any scriptures up, and just, I don't have to do any illustrations, don't have to tell any jokes, don't have to do anything. I just preach the word, explain it for 2 hours. I would love that if that would work, but it doesn't work, at least not in this culture today.
What's really interesting,
when it comes online, it's harder.
Now that you say that, and this is not a judgment on anybody, but I was walking into Target the other day with my 3 kids, right? Mm-hmm. And we're approaching, and there's a man who looks disheveled with a Bible in his hand, and he's just reading it out loud in front of Target. He can't be right in front of the store, so he's like in the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
And I tell my kids, you guys stay on this side of me. I'm going to walk between you and him, because I don't know who this guy is and how, like, if he's got his mental facilities, and like, I don't trust him. I know he's reading out of the Bible, but what is he reading? Why is he yelling it? Who is he talking to? He's preaching a sermon. There's no crowd around him, so nobody has context for the sentence they heard when they walked by. And I'm like, guy, there's a better way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Christian YouTubers have that street corner preacher mentality. And I just want to put this out there. I do believe that there is a time and a place for that. And I do believe people can be reached, and it's an effective way for some, but it's an ineffective way for others. And I think we've got too many street preachers on YouTube. And for the vast majority of the people walking by, and they're like, no, this is boring. This isn't fun to watch. But as soon as you start to add some creativity, as soon as you start to put some elements in it, as soon as you start to capture them and explain it in a different way, okay, now all of a sudden, yeah, I'm ready to listen. And so I think there's a different approach. And I think too often we just as Christians, we become comfortable and lazy. We're comfortable with the way that we've always done it. And because I've always done it and it always seems to work, I'm always going to do it. And then that comfortability just becomes laziness because we're not willing to try something else. We don't realize, hey, I've been doing this for, 14, 15 years at this point. And it's like, maybe there's a new generation that has come up. And maybe some of that older generation has also kind of moved on. So maybe I need to figure out how to reach, this next generation.
I'll never forget this. I was working at a small church down in Whittier, California, youth pastor thing, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sitting in the big church, the one where the adults go. And I've got a teenager next to me from the youth group. The pastor is speaking and the teenager is whispering to me the entire service what the pastor's going to say next. He's got a fill in the blank, thing in the printed bulletin, whatever. And he's telling me everything he's going to say before he says it. And it's not like this kid was like a super amazing Christian that knew the Bible really well and applied it to his life. He just had been there for a long time and had heard the message that this pastor spits out every year on the same Sunday, and
right,
and knew could predict basically everything he was going to say, and it didn't register with him as important or applicable to his life because he had heard it so many times in the same way. And so I think we become numb to the scripture, to the relevance to our life when we don't. That's why I like to see what, I like to see what my Bible says. And then I like to look at what other translations say and look at commentaries and try to flesh out and discover, okay, I've thought this way about this for a long time. What if there's a different perspective here? Let's check this out. Right. So it kind of takes you down that rabbit hole and ultimately can lead you to a different application even of that passage. But I think, like we've been saying, presentation matters. Trying to be creative about how we're going to communicate it matters. And I think too many of us are just noise. We're just noise to the world. And we will be noise to some people no matter what we do, because
exactly
we can't make people hear what we're saying. But we need to be creative. I mean, God's creative. Why are we not more creative? And sometimes I get stuck, in the same style and the same kind of thing. And I'm like, man, I need to be creative again. I need to mix this up and restart this again. So, man, there's a lot to do. There's a lot going on out there. And there's a lot of opportunity in our digital space. And there's so many. Here's a great thing. This is great and not great. There are so many, like you said, avenues or platforms that all have different, unique styles or languages. Right. And so it takes different people in many cases to pursue those different avenues. We know people who have gone crazy viral on TikTok.
Yep.
Crazy viral. And I had like a couple videos hit pretty good there, but not like this guy. This guy just shot through the roof, and he was overwhelmed by the response, almost quit. And I'm going to be talking to him in a few episodes, but each kind of avenue, each platform, I feel like we all just need to find like which of these, not to say we can't be on multiple, but which of these is my main thing. Which one do I resonate with most? Which one do I get the most? And so I think that's a big part of it. And I think, I don't know, I'm biased. I think every pastor and ministry leader should have a digital presence. If they're going to be effective to the next generation, I think that's just something we need to be doing.
Yeah, and I've been saying that, the last couple of years in like my ministerial circles, everyone I'm talking to, it's like if you're not, and I even get more specific. I'm like, if you're not on YouTube, Like, I believe, yes, we should all kind of explore different avenues and see what we're at. But I believe everybody needs to be on YouTube, and we need everybody in ministry with a YouTube channel. And the reason I believe that is because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, right behind Google.
Which
and
owns it.
YouTube and Google are the same kind of company. I mean, what is it? Alphabet owns them both. So it's like, that is one of the biggest reasons that everybody should be on there. And especially with, smartphones right now, there's really no excuse. And quite frankly, I would just love it even if pastors that are like, I don't know what to do. And this is something I had told some pastors at one of our ministry conferences. And I said, if you don't know what to do, find something that you're already doing and just think, can I stick a camera in front of me when I'm doing that thing? And I saw a bunch of them that were already doing a daily devotional, and they were talking out loud in their office just to themselves. So they were thinking out loud and talking out loud. And they just asked, like, could I just record that? And I was like, yes, please. Set up a camera, set up a webcam. Something is better than nothing, and get something out there. And then, you can start to improve the quality there. So I believe everybody should be, online for sure, because if you're not, I really think that any church, any ministry that does not have a digital presence, you've probably got about 5 to 8 years, and then you're 100% done. Like, you're not going to be able to reach anybody. It's just, if you're not growing, you're dying. And if you're not where the growth is at and where people are at, then you're dying. And to me, this goes even farther back. This goes to the Great Commission, where Jesus says, go into all the world and preach the gospel. And what he's essentially saying is, you need to go where people are at. And each and every one of us, God has called us not just to a physical space, but I believe in this day and time, there's a digital space that he's called us all to. And if we're online in any capacity right now, do something. Like, I've got an 80, I don't even know how old she is, grandmother. And COVID hit, she figured out how to get on YouTube. Like, not creating content, but at least watching content and putting it out there. And then willing to be with me on camera to do other stuff where, 5 years ago, no, don't stick a camera in front of me. I don't want you recording me. If they don't show up to hear me, at a Bible study or at church teaching, then no, they're not going to listen at all. And so I think there's a lot of people that are recognizing, especially the younger generation, they are online and they're spending a lot of time online. And if we really believe that we're supposed to go and reach them, well, then we have to go to them. We can't expect them just to come to us.
True. So what last kind of big question for you. How is your physical church online? Besides your channel, besides what you're doing with vlog pastors and that sort of thing.
Apart from that, not much. We do a Facebook group, and we do a lot of really, instant messaging type stuff, which, that can go back to even, and let me take this back. It's all the digital space is just a new medium for the same communication we always had. And so really, when people are in a group chat, when they're DMing, well, that's essentially what we were doing when we were texting, or go back further and it wasn't texting, it was phone calling, and go back even further and it was writing letters. So that's one of the main things that we're doing with that, is just trying to have more connection, especially in this, COVID, pandemic world that we're in at the moment. A lot more of that digital interaction, because there's not as much in person. So we're taking it into a digital, type connection. We've got a few ideas that we've looked at doing, and at some point we will probably implement. We record our messages, we put them up in a podcast form, audio only versus the video. Main reason for that is it's extra work for me, and I don't have anybody else to do it. And I only got so much time. So that's one of those things. And we've got a couple other ideas, but again, only so much time. So even like with our church's Facebook page, we'll go weeks or months where there's nothing on there. And that's just a telltale sign that I got busy and I didn't have time to leverage into that. But what I typically will do is just do some, social media posts and things like that. Mm-hmm. Something to help to provide some more connection with them. And this is where I think the pastors, where ministry leaders, where Christians in general, if they're trying to do something, and it kind of goes to what you were saying about, what can I do and how can I do it? I think part of that is knowing who you are and what giftings, what abilities you have. And then also knowing who God has called you to reach, because he hasn't called us all to reach the same people. And I think when we can do that, when we know what our skill set is and how God has equipped and enabled us and who he's called us to reach, the method all of a sudden starts to become a whole lot easier to identify. So that's kind of, where we're at, what we're doing. We've got some other ideas for, long form video podcast stuff, looking at possibly going back to doing some streaming stuff as well. But as you can tell, if you're watching this, I'm kind of a stickler for visual quality, and the church isn't quite there yet. So until that point, it's just, we're going to do what we do.
So you guys are in person right now.
Yeah. So we're in person, still socially distant, masks optional. That's kind of, here in Iowa where it's been, and being a smaller church as far as smaller in numbers. And we've got enough space, everybody can spread out. But because of those that maybe are still more of a high risk, that are choosing to stay at home, that's where we're still, recording, and they're at least getting the audio. So I can make sure they're at least getting that message. And then we've got several people that are reaching out, connecting, calling. So it's not all on me. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that.
Cool. And we're in California, so we're all online. We're all online.
Yeah. And again, this is Iowa and California. They're two different worlds.
Yep. Definitely two different worlds. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out and talk for a little bit and talk through some of the things that you're thinking through and doing and executing on online. And I think what's really encouraging, or should be encouraging, to a lot of people who are feel like they need to do something, but they don't know what. Joshua's church is just putting audio sermons online, but then he's doing things from his personal brand himself. And that's fulfilling part of the mission of the church as well, which, so you got a lot going on. You're like a lot of pastors, got a lot going on, doing a lot of things. I get that. I appreciate that. Thankful for what you're doing for the kingdom. Any last, where can people find you?
You can pretty much find me at Joshua Verwers. That's Joshua, V as in Victor, ERWERS. At Joshua Verwers on most of the social channels, or joshuaverwers.com. And that's the easiest place to get a hold of me.
All right. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate you hanging out. God bless you.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Well, I hope you found value in that conversation with Joshua. I hope you take away something that you can apply to your life or ministry that is going to help you be more effective for the kingdom of God. If you like this, I would appreciate a subscribe, a like, a share, a comment, something to let me know that you like it. And if you want to support this channel, just check out the links below. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next one.